we're a week away from the county taking our house. Told me later, well, they would be in the room at night together, talking and worrying, and the youngest one would start crying, and the oldest one would say, "It'll be okay. Mom will take care of us." Have to be the emotional stabilizer. Say, "We'll be okay. No matter what, we'll be okay." So for me, I just got quieter, more into my
Yep.
shell.
Mhm.
You know, um, just and that I can't work by myself in a relationship. So all of that said, he filed for divorce. And recently, if I may share, dear audience, that I unfortunately had to go back to court last week.
Hmm.
And I mean, we had cleaned everything up to now. Our credit was in the 800s. Our house had been paid for. And we'll talk
Mhm.
about how, how that affected with the mortgage and everything. He's now got collectors calling us again, and he's in debt again, and he's not paying his bills again. And
How
there's no safety net.
I was gonna say, why would they be calling you and you're divorced?
Because even though you're divorced, when people look up the name, they can see, well, he lived here. Let me see if he's still here.
Oh,
We live in the same house. I haven't
yeah.
moved.
Okay.
So, right. So they're going to look and say, oh, let me see. And I don't know that he's not still using our address. I don't know that. So
Yeah.
here's what I wanted to stress. The dream is great. Okay. It's great. It's a great starting place.
Mhm.
Let's look at the reality of having that dream come to fruition.
Yes.
How are we going to do that? What do we need to do? What's like I said to you a few minutes ago, step by step. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with planning. You
Mhm.
know, I was caught off guard that he wanted a divorce. I'm going to be honest, because he
Mm.
never really. Yeah, I was, because I'm still willing to work. I made a commitment to God that I would be married until death do us part. For me, it's not a joke. It's not just words you want to say because they
Right.
sound good. That's what they want you to repeat. That's my commitment.
Yeah.
So I was very caught off guard, even though all this had happened in our life, because I still believe in working things out. He didn't want to do that. So again, not being smart with money, he wanted to take me to court. And so
Mm.
he ended up spending $57,000 on a divorce. It's it's what you said early on. Money management is also part of being an entrepreneur.
Mhm.
And one thing I would tell our audience is the emotional part.
Yeah.
Emotions are great, but don't let them dictate to you your finances.
Mhm.
Okay? Because when you do that, you're gonna put yourself in a situation that if you
Yeah.
had stopped for a moment, settle, breathe,
Yeah.
then there's step by step by step. Does that make sense?
Right. So what are some things that you would have done differently now looking back? What would you have done differently to be a better support person to him? Like, is there anything you think that you could have done differently?
Yeah, I mean, hindsight's always 2020. I think
Yeah.
that when I look back on that, because I have moments even now where I think about that, and I could just done this or said this. I think that for me, it would have been, I don't want to say force the issue of planning, but really present it in a way, excuse me, that is palatable for him. So maybe
Okay.
I didn't, that's the thing. Maybe I didn't present it in a way that it would be received. You know
So
what I
how do you
mean?
think that could have happened?
It's a good question. I think that more tenderhearted, I'm not mean about things. I mean, I think two things. I took too long to
Mm,
say, hey,
yeah.
I waited too long. I should
Mhm.
have said, hey, within the first time around, we're not doing this. You work, and when the boys get older, then I'll
Yeah.
go back to work, and then we'll create our nest egg. We did have a moment in our
Mhm.
last few years of marriage where we did purchase a house, we flipped it, and we made money.
Okay.
And then everything fell apart. That's why I was caught off guard
Mm.
with his behavior with the other woman. I'm like, huh? But my
Yeah.
son and I are the ones that worked on the house when I look back on it. So we were doing, again, there's that work ethic. You see what I'm saying again?
Mhm.
Um, there, there wasn't a work ethic on his part. My son's a worker, as I mentioned earlier on. I'm a worker. My family, we were taught you work
Yeah.
in any capacity. It could be, like as I said, self-employment, working for somebody else, but
Right.
everybody works. You know,
Yeah.
everybody takes responsibility. So I think that's one thing is act a little bit sooner. You know,
Mhm.
kind of force the issue of financial aptitude. Really understand what are we doing here? How are we going to do this? Not
Mhm.
just I'm going to live here in my head and dream that it's happened already.
Yeah. You said he said, "Don't give up on me. Don't give up on my dreams." From his part, if he would have been clear, possibly about what support he needed, and at that point to be able to paint the picture much better for you, that would have been helpful, I'm sure, for you.
I think so. I think that again, that goes down to having the clarification. Did you have clarity as what it is that you wanted to do in the first place?
Right?
I wasn't giving up on the person. I never did that. But the dream was so unclear. What are we doing here? It's
Yes,
great
that's
to
so good.
watch. What was that show called? The Lives of the Rich and Famous.
Okay,
That's it. It's many many years ago, but they worked at that to get that. All you're seeing is the result.
that's right.
You
Mhm.
don't see the blood, the sweat, and the tears. You know, it's just like when we have our children. You know, that's why we keep having them because we don't remember the blood, sweat, and the tears. But no, I mean, which is wonderful. Don't get me wrong, but
Yeah,
no one sees that once you hold that little person. They just see the beauty. They don't
yep,
remember that you were sick for the first 4 months. You know, they just see, oh, look what you and your husband did. That's beautiful.
yeah,
You know, so that's part of what I would. Again, I think the main thing is to let's be financial reality. You
yeah,
know, not just an ambition. I think that's very very important. And communicate. And I see when I look back on it, it's so funny you mention that. I think that I would force the issue, but we got to sit down weekly and go over the budget. You know, let's okay, what did you spend this week? What did I spend this week? You know,
mhm.
how did that work? You know, all of that, you know, versus not in your dream, but it's like it's not real. Does
So
that make
what was
sense?
it? So what were you guys doing if you weren't doing weekly budget?
I
So I have a quick favor to ask. If you're still watching and you have not yet, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Click that like button and also share it with somebody you know. Something I learned about YouTube and these podcast things, because as you know, I'm pretty new, or if you haven't realized that, I'm pretty new to this thing. And so, what I found out is that the more likes and the more shares that your video gets, the more the algorithm will send this out to the people that really need to see this content. Do me a favor, go ahead and subscribe, like, comment, and share this episode. I would love to get it up to 100 likes. Let's get back to the
had
conversation.
my budget, he had his budget or whatever he did.
So y'all separated the bills and
Yeah,
he
I had
paid.
to. I just couldn't do it. I
Okay.
couldn't get back to 385. And so I made sure that, you know, we and he was fine with that. You know, he would take care of the household and I'd take care of the fun because we had got to that point where things were paid off.
Okay.
So I could pay for the cruise, I could pay to go to Europe, I could pay for getaways here and there, you know, and he would take care of the household. It was a really good ending to all the drama.
Do you think that financial divorces for entrepreneurs is more financially complicated than anyone else? And if so, why?
No, you know, every divorce and every financial divorce is so different. You know, you can have someone who is a multimillionaire, which I just had this
Mhm.
case recently, and, and the other one spouse is working and one spouse isn't. And that in itself, and they're just working. That in itself is complicated. I see
Okay.
more stress on couples that are entrepreneurs. But what I've seen successfully is I've got good friends that have been married 30 years, I think now. They talk daily.
Mm,
They have a walk in the morning at 5:30 in the morning.
mhm.
If he doesn't have a trip, they go for their walk and they talk about da 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 da. And they are extremely successful. But she told them early on, stop talking about what you're going to do and just do it. And let's plan this out. Let's go. Little short person. We're short. And so he's took that to heart. And she told him, you have my support. Now go do it. And he
That's right.
did. And they spoke, and they still to this day, they still have that daily, let's go for a walk. Unless he's out of town,
Mm.
and stuff. That's the key.
Think that a lot of men would realize that they will have better support of their spouses if they show, if they demonstrate, if they dream is coming to fruition and continuing to communicate. Okay, this is what the plan was, how close we've gotten to the goal, or this is maybe even the setback if there's a slight setback. It's important to communicate that as well. You have to communicate so that spouse can be a part of the vision and be able to understand that you are working towards something. Yes, we had a setback, but we're still working towards. We know where we're going. We had the setback, but we're back on track now, and this is what we're doing to get there. And it all goes back to communication. And then if there is that time frame where we're not getting to the next goal in the time frame that we set to do it in, what can we do different? What do we need to do? How do we pivot? But I think you have to include your spouse in those things.
Those discussions are kind of important. I
Yeah.
think so. And well said to you. Absolutely. I think that's very important to discuss it. I think that also, when I look back on my life with my former spouse, is that he didn't have a skill set or direction to do what with that skill set. Does that make sense? So I watched one of your podcasts. I don't remember her name, but she was lovely. And she was like, her husband had a skill. I think it was designing web page. I'm not sure. Please forgive me.
Oh,
But
yeah.
that was a wonderful conversation. But
Yeah. Miss
the
Ruth.
point that, yeah, it was great. It was just wonderful. But the point is that he had a skill set, and he was like, yeah, I think I can do this.
Mhm.
I think he was an architect, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken.
That was his
Right.
degree. Yeah.
That was his degree. So he kind of pivoted nicely to what he eventually did and created
Yeah.
this life for himself. But I think that was what was lacking as well. And part of it is my former spouse missed his calling. My
Mm.
former spouse is an amazing minutia. In other words, he can take the tiniest thing and figure it out mechanically.
Hmm.
So in our day and age, civil engineers and engineers didn't make the money that they make today. He
Okay.
made like teacher salary, maybe a little bit above teacher salary.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, it was a long time ago. We were talking about the 40s and the 50s. That's, because remember it's true. So engineers didn't make six figures or seven figures, whatever. Um, Even though my father-in-law created that entire freeway system out there in Southern California, he didn't make any money. They live
Mm.
like a teacher. I'm not being funny. So, but that being said, he that was his calling. His dad was amazing.
Mhm.
Came to design like that. Those freeways were out of this world and beautiful.
Mhm.
My husband should have been a mechanical engineer. He is
Mm.
so good with his hands, and he can fix, repair like motorcycles, whatever. But he can take it from not the gross motor
Yeah.
skill. He's so good at that, but he didn't think he could make money at it. So if
Oh,
money is your only reason for existing, I want to make money.
yeah.
Then you kind of miss all the subtleties that God's trying to, knock on your door and say,
Wow.
no, I want you to do this. Oh, no, 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 but that's not going to make you money because you're only looking at it from today,
Wow.
and that I feel sad about that for him. When I look
Mhm.
back, said looking back, is that yeah, he missed that. And who knows where God would have led him to. That would have made him, I guess, his dream come true of being a multimillionaire because
Yeah.
he's taking the talent that he gave you
Yeah.
and he's going to put you where you need to be because he knows your heart. He knows that you want to make a lot of money, you
Mhm.
know. And anyway, that's just some things that you asked about looking back and thinking about your life and doing things
Right.
differently. Yeah, I should have said something. You
Mm.
know, I don't think I had the foresight to think about that. I was too
Yeah.
busy survival mode.
So, we've made it to this point in the episode, and you're still here with us. I truly believe that something was said in this conversation that spoke to you. And because of that, I encourage you to take a few moments to journal about what resonated in your mind and in your heart. Journaling can be such a powerful form of self care and clarity. And I would love to help you with that. Simply send me an email to realtalkswithjanelle@gmail.com and I'll send a journal prompt directly to your inbox. Now, let's get back to the conversation.
Yes, that's right.
It's, it's,
So, did you know any other wives of entrepreneurs while you were going through?
it's a very good question. I knew husbands, but not well, not enough to have a discussion. But most of my friends are traditionalists. They're gonna go to work, they're
Yeah.
gonna save the money, they're gonna have a 401k,
Uh-huh.
and they're gonna go on a vacation once a year. They're going to get that gold watch at the end of
Mhm.
their career. They don't do that anymore. In my day, they did some of that. So yeah, so not really. It was really, it was really with the women. I think that's you mentioned that. It was fellow sisters that would say, you can do this. And to this day, they still are saying that to me.
Mm.
You can do this. Try this, try because I'm still trying different things and um, to because now I'm on my own. And I didn't have a retirement. I don't have a retirement because he never set me up. And I again,
Yeah.
not that financial aptitude. I should have said, "Hey, listen, every year let's put away $2,000 for me in a 401k, a Roth
Mhm.
IRA, or whatever you call those." Right? I didn't
Mhm.
do that.
Mhm.
We didn't have the money. Like I said, we're in survival mode. But even the last 10 years when things were, okay, you know, he still didn't do that. And I
Mm.
listened to him thinking that, well, our retirement plan is going to be flipping houses, and so we'll be fine. You'll be fine. Fine is, what's that acronym for fine? Oh my gosh, I can't
Oh, I
remember it.
haven't heard that one.
There is one. I'll come back to it,
Okay.
and I'll have to think about it. There's one for it's fun for that one too. So yeah.
Yeah. There's so many different teachings out there for entrepreneurship and so many ways to be successful. You can neglect the basic necessities as an entrepreneur trying to get to the next shiny object and neglecting the
That's it.
oversight and care and protection for your family. So, some people will think that protection from the man may just mean the physical sense, not understanding that protection for your family is looking beyond and at the now. So, from things as small or as big as having life insurance, having that K plan. So, yes, during those times when he was working a job, making sure, and you said he did have a 401k plan, but for you as well, making sure that something was set up separately for you. So, provision and protection for the family as the man entrepreneur. Yes, you're trying to get to that big dream and goal, but you have to plan for now too, because you just don't know what's going to happen ahead.
Absolutely. When our son died, we didn't have life insurance for him. We didn't have a penny for him.
Mm,
So the church stepped up. They paid for everything.
I'm sorry to hear that.
So when you have the nightmare of losing your baby, and then you have no money to take care of him. So I think what you said is so vital for people to
Hmm.
understand and to understand
Yeah.
is provision.
So you've had a lot of lessons through 36 years of marriage
Mhm.
to an entrepreneur. You have a whole basket of lemons and you made this beautiful, sweet, delicious lemonade. Tell us,
Thank you.
tell us, yes, tell us about that transition to this new mission and purpose work that you're doing and the book that you've written.
Well, I think that for me, I like people, and I know it sounds kind of funny, but you'll be surprised how many people don't like people.
No, I'm not surprised. I hear nurses say that they don't like people, and I'm like, what?
Why are you
You're the
here?
wrong.
you
But anyway,
know,
go ahead.
yes, ma'am. But I like people, and I sat down and I thought, I don't want people to go through this. I don't want you to be 50, 60, 70, or even 30 and not understand what's involved in starting over,
Mm,
especially when it comes to real estate. I didn't know what I was doing. I'll tell you how I became a mortgage lender. My neighbor next door, it was during COVID. And I said, what am I going to do? I was crying a lot. I'm like, what am I going to do? I've been married. And I'm just a little teacher that does privately. I don't, that's just extra money. This is not something I guess I could build up my studio again, but I'm a traveling musician. I travel to your house, Janelle, and teach your kids on your piano because that
okay.
way they can stay, because I was a homeschooler. And it was a great way for me to get out of the house. That's why the boys
Yeah.
would come with me because we
Mhm.
were always, doing things at home or whatever. So she said, well, become a mortgage. You're smart. You're good with numbers. Don't go into real estate like I am, because she's a realtor. And she's
Mm.
very, very, very successful. Lives, that next door millionaire, the
Yeah.
millionaire next door.
I'm
That's
reading
my,
that book now.
oh, yeah, it's a good book. So she said that. So it's a very difficult test to take. And she said, just study, blah, blah, blah. So I did take it, I'm a teacher, so I passed it.
Mhm.
But it's not the same thing as doing. You can
Mm.
pass a test, that from being a nurse, but then when you get in
Mhm.
there with the patients, they didn't write this down.
Yeah, that's
So,
right.
but anyway, I did that. But in the course of the time that I had become one, I said, how do I help other people? Because in that time, I'm getting divorced and I have to refinance the house. I don't know what that is.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay. But luckily excuse me, I am sorry. I'm a mortgage person. I have a broker who I work for. So she did my mortgage and there's all this paperwork.
Mm.
I didn't know anything about, I knew credit score, an idea about credit, but then there's the debt to income ratios. I'm like, what the heck is that? And
Yeah.
then I'm self-employed for the most part, even with
Mhm.
her, because
Mhm.
she was out in Colorado. She was a broker that I worked for like a year, but she taught me some things as well. So it was like, um, what am I doing? And it was a little bit
Mm.
like, I never thought I wouldn't get it. My credit was good, blah, 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 but I didn't understand anything, honey. There was no book to say, okay, this is what they're talking about. This is what
Okay.
they mean by that. There was no one to say, and my broker wasn't, she was just trying to get the deal done. It wasn't about anything else.
He wasn't trying
Um,
to teach you nothing.
ma'am, that's why it was just a year I worked for her. But that's okay. No, it's okay. But the point though is that I didn't know anything.
Mm.
And I don't want people that, knowledge is power. We've all heard that in our lifetime. But
Yeah.
also knowledge is safety. You feel safe when you know something. I know
That's
I do.
right. That's
I know this
right.
is gonna work out. You feel different. So I wanna make sure I wanted to help in some way. So in passing, God is amazing. And
Mm.
I thought, how do you become a like, how do I get around divorced women and even men? I've helped men too. How do I
Mhm.
help them? I mean, there's a whole bucket of people that are married and then unfortunately, because I don't like divorce, unfortunately are having to go through a divorce and they've got
Mm.
property, they've got children, they've got this, they've got assets. How do I help?
Mhm.
So God put this woman in my life and she told me she was a certified divorce real estate agent. I said, well, how did you do that? And she said, well, I took a class and I got certified and I have a coach and blah, blah, blah. So I said, okay. And I did the research. And so then I took the class and here it is 3 years, I don't know how many years it is now later that I've helped a few people with the divorces. And I thought, well, I can't, let me just write this down a little bit. And so my book is a very short guidebook. I can't put every example in there. When you're writing a book, and I don't know if you have or not, I don't remember that on your profile, but if you are, you have readers, professional readers read it, or just people, friends of yours read your book. And three of them, you get three, and all three said, what about this idea? I'm like, it's a guidebook. Like you asked me earlier about, is it more complicated to have a entrepreneurship divorce than it is others? Every divorce is different. Every situation is going to be different. I didn't go into quadros. I didn't go into all the different assets. I just want to tell you, think about this, 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 and this.
Mm.
And also think about whether you should keep your house or not. I had a client this past year. I went because I go to court for you also because I'm certified. So if my attorney my attorney partner needs me to come to court to kind of discuss the plan in front of the judge, then I go to court. Now I looked at all her stuff, and if she had told all the truth based on that, then yeah, you should keep your house, and here's what you can do, and blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, just because I'm telling the truth doesn't mean you're going to tell the truth. So at the end of the day, based on the stuff that we eventually found out, I'm not her lender any longer.
Mm.
Like I couldn't help her, honey. She needs to put her house up for sale,
Mm.
you know. But if she had told me some of the things, yeah, I was finding out bits and pieces, and then my lenders are like, "We can't help her."
Oh, wow.
I'm a wholesale broker, so I have 12 to 15 different brokers I can tap into for different loans, non-QMs, traditional convention, whatever, conventional FHA, all that. So when they start saying, we can't really, she'll have to do this, this, and this, and she wasn't forthcoming.
Mhm.
My attorney recently told me that she has 15 days, 14 days
Oh.
now,
Mm.
but the refinance it's sad. But that's what we do. I'm here to tell you when I work with you, if you tell me the whole truth, I'm going to do the very best I can for you. But I'm going to be truthful and say, you probably should sell your house, or here's what we need to do. Okay, we can do this, this, and this. Let's build our strategy about, okay, if he gives you this and you can take this and then you can swap the equity this way. Or if he decides that you're not going to take any of his, like, for example, in my divorce, my husband had about 100K in his
Okay.
K. I didn't want any of that. I didn't want alimony. I didn't want that because he would have probably quit his job if he had to pay me alimony, and they do that. And I have to tell my clients that, okay, to remember, it can be against the ruling of the decree. I understand that, but keep that in mind that you're counting on that because that also goes into income when it comes to getting your mortgage. There's just so many things we have to think about when it comes to that mortgage and divorce. And I want women and men, but
Hmm.
in particular, I have to be honest, women to
Yeah.
understand. Think about this before you just say, I want a divorce. I'm not a proponent of divorce. I will support you through it. I think most people are not proponents of divorce. I don't think people go getting married to say, "Oh, I'm gonna get divorced." I don't think so.
Right,
Things
right,
happen. I understand that, but let's be smart about it. And
right.
it's hard because you're emotionally attached. You're emotionally attached to all the memories that you
Mhm.
created. I've been there. And I think that's also something that I was able to understand about myself is that I can tell people because unfortunately I've been there. I understand the emotional part about, oh, I just want to stay in the house. And I want to stay in the house because I understood the market by that time and I
Mm.
knew what was going to happen in the market. So I'm like, no, I need to stay in the house,
Mhm.
and I did. And the judge granted that, but I didn't ask for any. I got everything I wanted, but I didn't ask for any. He didn't have anything, honey. The dream is that's what I'm saying. The dream is one thing, the reality is another. So in the dream, he's a millionaire. In reality, he's barely making ends meet. You see what I'm saying? So, and I didn't want the stress. Yeah, I was married a long time. I could have asked for all my money. It's okay. It's okay.
I've got another question came to mind because something you did say early on was that he was a bit arrogant and he was a dreamer. And so my question to you is, was he portraying a level of success to other people in your presence? And
Smart.
if so, how did you deal with that?
You know, I I have to say that I was always covering for my husband.
Mm.
So he would act like he was going to be so successful. I had a friend of mine, a fellow musician, say to me that it was a man. He said, anybody can do that. Where's he's talking about one of my husband's ideas. He said, that's not going to work, And so I would say, well, I'm sure he has a plan. So here I am defending,
Mm.
you know, and saying something that probably isn't true because we haven't had that discussion because we're not meeting daily or weekly or monthly.
Yeah.
So, he it's so funny I think back on this. He didn't have he would act I remember this is why I came up with my best friend. He would always act like he was already successful. And I know that in the Bible it tells us that, death and life is in the power of the tongue,
Tongue.
Proverbs 18:21, right? So I understand that. But there's got to be some truth behind that as well when you're talking to others. You can tell it to yourself. I'm successful. I got this. And you
Yeah.
want to do that. I got this because you're trying to encourage yourself to
Yourself. That's right.
and motivate yourself to keep
Yeah.
going. But he would act like he was more than that in front of others all of the time. And when he would be a bit awkward about it, I would just kind of step in and save them. Does that make sense? Like so he could save face.
Oh, you did. Was
Yeah.
there ever a point that you became resentful and you didn't stand in the gap and protect him?
Only just recently I decided I can't do this anymore. I said, because there's something that came up with our divorce he was supposed to do. He refused to do it. The lawyer said, you have to do it. He finally was conciliatory and signed the title, but we had to go to court. I didn't have to. I was given
Mm.
the option. Do you want to go to court? I'll do whatever you want. That's what my attorney said. And I said, my whole life, with I've always cleaned up after him. I've always taken care of him. He needs to take responsibility for the fact that he didn't do what the judge told him to do in the decree. So recently I said, I can't keep protecting him, even though we're divorced,
Mhm.
and I still have that tendency to not build him up, but we're divorced for almost 4.5 years. And I'm still like, well, and my son's like, Mom, I'm like, it's a habit. It is a habit. And I didn't want him to look bad. I don't want most people to look bad. So
Yeah.
that's just part of who I am as my character.
Now, was there ever a time that you started questioning yourself, like trusting your own decisions and questioning what did that look like?
because I've gone through that a little bit. Last year I invested in something, it didn't work out, so I have debt. So I don't panic because I work and I'll clean it up. But I think that moment is like, am I turning into my husband? It's like, no, you're not turning into your husband. You work. He didn't want to work. I don't mind working, you know.
Mhm.
So but I would live with him for so long, but you don't realize that influence is there, even though you're apart.
Yeah.
But 2/3 of my life, I've been with I was with this man and that
Mhm.
influence, and I was
Yeah.
trying to build a life with this man, and
Mhm.
his thoughts. And I will be honest with you, when I did get divorced, I didn't really know who I was, because I was like, "What do I like to eat? Do I wanna cook every night, or what do I like to do?" You
Wow.
know, because you're focused on, at least I was, of taking care of the household.
Yeah.
Yes, I took care of my health because I have to because of health reasons, but I'm talking about
Mhm.
just that. Who are you, Charisse? What do you want to do? And you should always be asking yourself that in life. And you should
Mhm.
always be growing. I mean, you're not going to
Yeah.
just be the same. Unfortunately, I'll use the example of a flat line, when someone passes, you're
That's
not
right.
that right. There's that dash between the day you're born and the day you die. What are you doing
That's
here?
right.
So make sure you're growing and you're learning. So that's a very good question. Thank you for asking that.
Yeah. So is there anything else that you want to share with the women listener and even men? So believe it or not, I looked at my analytics and I have men subscribers and viewers as well. So is there anything else that you would like to share with either um, that I haven't asked you already?
I guess that what I would tend to tell everyone is, it's great to be in love, and it's great to be married to someone who has dreams, you know, but please think in terms of your financial reality. Hope doesn't replace paying bills.
So, we've made it to this point in the episode, and you're still here with us. I truly believe that something was said in this conversation that spoke to you. And because of that, I encourage you to take a few moments to journal about what resonated in your mind and in your heart. Journaling can be such a powerful form of self care and clarity. And I would love to help you with that. Simply send me an email to realtalkswithjanelle@gmail.com and I'll send a journal prompt directly to your inbox. Now, let's get back to the conversation.
Either
That's
does
right.
love. That's it's a wonderful emotion to be in love and
Mhm.
to be supportive, you know, but there's the reality check. There's the real talk, as we say here on your show.
Mhm.
Um, and you need to have that real talk. I think that you have to think in terms of stability at times, and that's not very romantic. We live in this idea of romance, which is wonderful, but that's just a moment. Okay, what about the stability of the family?
That's
You
right.
know, what about the stability of just day to day living? How are we going to make this happen?
Yeah.
Um, I think work work on each other, work on your marriage. Take time to really talk to each other.
Mhm.
If I could say anything that was a big failure in the marriage, is that lack of communication, the
Mhm.
unwillingness to communicate,
Mhm.
the unwillingness for me to pray together. I'd say, let's pray together. No, I don't want to do that. So I pray by myself. I'm still going to pray,
Mhm.
and pray for the Lord to guide your steps. Why not? He will.
That's right.
I think that it's not failure when you have to start over if you're starting over together. Why not? We made a mistake,
Yeah.
if you think about from what I told you, we did start over
Yeah.
and over and over and over. Sorry. But I think that I know that understand the financial position you put yourself in and take responsibility on both parts, on the wife, the husband. You're both in this together,
Yeah.
and so be responsible.
Mhm.
And don't think that everything is supposed to be easy. That's a mistake. Okay. Like I said to you early on, there's the left, which is the dream. Oh, I got this dream. We're going to be so wealthy. The middle is
Mhm.
the work, and it's a big chunk.
Yeah.
End result,
Huge.
yeah, it's huge. And the end result is the fruition of your dream. So I think for me, with regard to just as a divorce lender and my book, which I will tell people, it's the keys to your next chapter, mortgage planning during divorces. You can find it on Amazon, on my website as well. But I think for me is to help people understand that if you decide to get divorced, you've got to think in terms of financial strategy.
Mm.
And it sounds cold, but divorce isn't made at church.
That's right.
So, and divorce, unfortunately, is about money. And I don't think women understand that in particular. Men may, and I'm putting down
Mhm.
our lovely male audience, but divorce is about money.
Yeah. I heard this counselor podcaster say that once you're looking at divorce, it's now a business transaction.
Yes, ma'am.
And so now you have to look at it from that perspective. And I'm like, dang.
Yes.
It's like the love that was once there, the relationship that was once there, that's totally irrelevant. It is now a business transaction. I'm like, oof.
So that's why I prefer you all to stay married.
That's right.
I would prefer if you just stay married and work on it. And I have friends that since I've been divorced will say, I just want to get divorced. I said, no, you don't. And you will not get divorced as far as I'm concerned as your friend. No, I'm very serious. I'm like, no, I had a friend. I'm like, nope, we're not doing that. I don't care if you live in separate bedrooms. You're not getting divorced. It's extremely painful and expensive and it's not worth it. It's not worth it. It's so great. You build a life together.
Mhm.
You've been married 20 years. You built this life together. No,
Mhm.
work it out. Figure it out. You figured out how to
Yeah.
get married and have children. So figure that out too. I think the last thing I'll say about, just my book and just me being a lender is my goal is to give you give you some calmness because you're going to be going through a storm. I don't
Mhm.
want you to, like I said early on, work it out, but you're going to be going through the storm. How do you manage it when you have real estate and you have assets?
Mm.
Whether it's a $50,000 house or a $50 million house. How do you manage it? So I'm here to give you a sense of calm and give you back a sense of control. All right,
Mhm.
just breathe. And I tell all my clients that when they start calling me, breathe, and then let's talk and tell me what your
Yeah.
your end goal is. I'm hoping that I help people. That's my goal.
Right. And I'm sure you will. I have a friend that she unfortunately went through a divorce, and although she was covering so much as it relates to their family from a financial standpoint and managing the house and things,
Hmm.
when it came time for the divorce, she literally put her hand up and she was not willing to fight. She was like, I'd rather be gone, like separated, and I'll build myself back up. That was just how much she was just wanting to be apart from the marriage.
That's unfortunate
Yep.
because and again, I will say this as well. Don't make an emotional decision, especially when it comes to money.
Mhm.
That's an emotional decision that, you don't need to make. You don't want
Yeah.
to go from chaos to chaos because that's what that sounds like. Because you have to
Mhm.
start all over and you don't know what you're doing. You want to go from chaos to clarity.
Yeah. So I wish I had known you when she was going through her
Me too.
time, because you would have definitely been a jewel to her.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you for saying
and
that.
so on this podcast, like you said, no one that I know of or that I can think of ever goes into marriage with the expectation of being divorced, but it
Right.
does happen. And so again, I appreciate you coming on and having this conversation. And I'm sorry that it did not work out for you or your husband. He filed for the divorce. He didn't want to work to make it work. But the reality is it happens. And so we don't want to neglect that.
I'm extremely biblical, religious, whatever you want to call it. Should I have stayed? I'm glad I did. And I'm not going to say I regret that, especially giving the kids that firm um, foundation of
Mm,
family life,
mm.
because it was just the four of us because we're not near family. So it's just us. But for some people, if they're not, especially if they don't have any children yet and they haven't found a way to communicate, I don't know. I mean, that's tough to say. I'm just being honest, you
Yeah,
know, and if you don't have someone who's going to work at it, I don't
yeah.
know.
I think it really is difficult to say early because there's so much to learn about yourself early on, and there's so much to learn about your spouse. There's a lot to learn in business, and nobody has this magic ball. So a lot of it comes down to, are you willing to sacrifice and do the work? And so if you realize early that I'm not willing to sacrifice and do the work, I'm not willing to take on the risk of this possible financial instability or the possibility of him being gone all the time and all the other things that may come with entrepreneurship, then I can see it in that perspective. But if you're willing to do the work and you know you're willing to do the work, absolutely stay
Mhm.
and do the work.
I agree. I can see it. But I think that, again, it comes from that clarity at the beginning of your relationship
Mhm.
and figuring out pretty straight on, are you going to work at this?
Mhm.
Because my husband to this day hates that word work. And so I would say the word effort then. Is that better? It takes effort. Doesn't that mean the same thing as work? I'm not being funny because my sons would hear that. I'm like, it takes work in a relationship. And he just thought it was this romantic idea that you see on TV that you live happily ever after. Well, part of that problem is they don't discuss how you become happily ever after. You just see the carriage and the prince and they ride off into the
That's right.
sunset. There's the work aspect of it. There's the,
Mhm.
growing up together, growing apart, growing back together,
Yeah.
figuring it out. It's called commitment. And commitment from the beginning means
Yeah.
financial commitment as well as the emotional and family commitment. It's
Mhm.
not just commitment in the sense that, well, I'll stay as long as I'm making money or whatever the parameter is set. You have
Yeah.
to really commit to, and if you're not willing to do that early on, as you said,
Mhm.
then perhaps it's time to really think about divorce early on. I'm again, I've told you from the beginning, I'm not a proponent of divorce.
Right,
It's
right.
been married a long time. You create this life together,
Mhm.
figure it out. Get help.
Yeah.
I did that also. I said, let's go to counseling now. I mean, I tried everything, Janelle. We finally went to counseling after, right before we got divorced. We
Mm.
were around this retreat. He knew he wasn't staying. He lied the whole time. I was crying because I was caught off guard. If you said, Charisse, your hair is blonde, okay, I would just believe you. If you told me something about yourself, for example, let's say you said, I've had money and I've been broke and I've had whatever, I don't know, name something.
Mhm.
Okay. I believe you. And then they come to find out that you're lying. I'm in shock. I know that's naive. I've been to a counselor. I'm naive, you know, and they say, well, it's good that you have that, Sharice, because, I have that joyful soul that God gave me. And if you say something, I'm going to believe you. I
Yeah.
choose to believe you. So I thought he wanted to really work on it. He moved out
Yeah.
the week Sunday we got home. He moved out.
Wow.
Anyway, enough about that. But this has been wonderful. I know that we've been on for a couple hours almost. You're very easy to talk to. I wish you all the success for this podcast. I think it's just going to just grow astronomically. I would love to come back on and talk about something more, happy with regard to entrepreneurship because I'm an entrepreneur at this
Right,
point.
right.
Writing a book, building up residual income. I'm a Mary Kay representative, so I do that as well. I do everything. Still teaching, working at church, but still trying
Mhm.
to do the best I can for what God has given me. So,
That's awesome.
it is. Thank
That's
you.
so one last thing I'll say to you is happy National Women's Month.
I know. Isn't that amazing? You're the first one that really said to me or reminded me that women are really the ones that are the entrepreneurs. And when I think about the connections I've made, it has been my girlfriend here, my girlfriend there, a strange, and the woman the certified divorce real estate, we're not friends. So that was just God using her as a conduit to leave me here, you see, in
Yeah.
my opinion, so it's women. And
Yeah.
I never thought about it. I'm not like pro women or anti women. I'm just a girl. I never thought about it. I'm just a girl, that isn't that amazing? And then here you are. And you were presented to me from, that's right, a woman,
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
So congratulations to you and happy Women's Month to you.
Thank you. Thank you. So I am going to link your contact below, but if you want to just kind of shout it out real quick, how can people connect with you?
Well, you can connect with me on my website. It's just my first and last name.com. It's up already, but completely ready for people to get my book off of that.
Okay.
You can also get my
Okay.
book on Amazon.com under the title, which I'm sure you'll have linked below. And I really appreciate that very much for you doing that. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you again so much for bringing on your insight, your knowledge, your wisdom. It's definitely going to help a lot of women where they are and prayerfully save a lot of marriages, entrepreneur marriages, because again, we are advocates for saving those marriages. So for everybody that's listening, thank you again. Definitely reach out to Charisse, purchase her book, and share it with a friend. If you are not subscribed to the channel yet, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Click the like button and share it with someone that you know that could benefit from the conversation. Conversations like this are important because so many women love entrepreneurs deeply, but they often feel alone in the challenges that come with that journey. The ambition, the uncertainty, the financial highs and lows, these things affect the entire relationship. And my hope with this podcast is that women realize that they are not the only ones navigating these experiences. And sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is to start having honest conversations we wish that someone had with us. Thank you for joining us for another conversation here on Real Talks with an Entrepreneur's Wife, where we talk about the things many women men feel, but few say out loud. Until next time. Bye.
Goodbye, everybody.